If Lyme disease was a book, Stephen King would have written it. That's how twisted this disease is. People with Lyme disease experience a carnival of symptoms. The symptoms bend the mind and cripple the body. These symptoms appear so random and so similar to other diseases that doctors often spend years misdiagnosing patients with other conditions like lupus, fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, and rheumatoid arthritis. For this reason, Lyme is often called the great imitator. It can imitate a host of other diseases, which is why in this video, you'll learn to recognize the symptoms. You'll learn what to look for and what the symptoms look like. But more importantly, you'll get a deeper understanding of how the symptoms feel. I lived with Lyme disease for 10 years, but it took 9 years and almost 20 doctors to diagnose. In these 10 years, I experienced over 30 symptoms. These symptoms came in stages, often several at a time. My initial symptoms were subtle at first. They got worse, but they came on subtle. Brain fog, depression, social anxiety, chronic fatigue, memory loss, mood swings, and daytime sleepiness. I was 19 and it almost seemed like I had puberty again, except different, something I call Lyme-berty. Lyme messes with your hormones. It turns us into angsty, terrible little preteens. If you are a preteen with Lyme, you have both. Learn to laugh. It's one of the medicines. Lyme-berty. Lyme-berty robs you of your liberty. You can't be yourself. You don't feel like yourself. You don't know who you're becoming. The same way a preteen doesn't know. You don't know who you're becoming. So you have all these different ways of acting out. After a couple years of living like this, the next batch of symptoms emerged, where the first batch messed with my mind, the second batch broke down my body. These symptoms were acid reflux, spinal discomfort, food allergies, high blood pressure, itchiness in public and private places, cold intolerance, cold hands and feet, a low body temperature, a slow heart rate, jaw tension and clenching at night, insomnia, sleep apnea, muscle cramps and tremors and fasciculations in my calves, poor coordination, dropping things randomly, just randomly dropping something while walking, tingling pins and needles in my hands and feet, electrical sensations down my spine, especially if I did this, when I touched it, it would be like a sharp electrical pain going down my spine. Frequent ear and sinus infections, a musky body odor, a thick white coat on my tongue, and IBS. I BS you not. That was terrible. Blood tests at this time revealed a very low testosterone for my age and a low platelet count. Symptoms. With a spinal discomfort, I could never get comfortable when sitting down. It felt like a snake was in my backbone and I had to constantly wiggle it out. Like always trying to crack, move it around. That sensitive snake needs a massage. My night sweats were so bad that not only were my sheets soaked, my mattress was soaked. I'd have to change my sheets 2 times a night sometimes. And before, not only would I change my sheets, I would put towels down underneath. When I was 22, my night sweats were so bad that my skin was moist and clammy all day. My lymph nodes swelled massively all over my body, and when I saw my infectious disease specialist, he put me in a CT scan right away. Afterwards, he told me, he's like, I thought you had lymphoma. I thought you were a goner. And then he put me in an MRI because he's like, you probably have MS. It's not that bad compared to lymphoma. That's Lyme, the great imitator. Digestion was a huge problem, and I quickly learned through experimentation that I couldn't tolerate processed foods, carbs, wheat, sugar, dairy, and fruit. The first thing I gave up was wheat, and within a couple weeks, my blood pressure went from 170 to 100, 110 sometimes. That was the first huge indicator for me of the power, the effect that food can have on your health. The next thing I gave up was sugar, and almost immediately, within a couple days, the night sweat stopped. The itchiness also died down, but the night sweat stopped. And any time in the following years where I cheated and I ate something sugary, the night sweats came back. Sugar also brought on these flash fevers where I would have like a random fever that went to about 103 and then it'd disappear and be gone. It just left me feeling like used and abused, like, why'd you do that to me? My hands and feet were always cold. My core body temperature went from 98 to 96. Sometimes 95.9. A low body temperature is bad because it allows pathogens to thrive. Among other processes like enzymes, it's bad. You need to raise your temperature for optimal health. Due to my insomnia, the doctors gave me a sleep study and they diagnosed me with mild central nervous system sleep apnea, not obstructive. When Lyme gets in the brain, it's called neuroborreliosis, and that's what caused my ALS-like symptoms. I often got the muscle cramps in my feet so bad, like my feet became claws, like it would last for like maybe 30 seconds and I just had to relax it. The same thing with when I was sleeping, I would wake up all the time with Charlie horses. I'd have a Charlie horse in my calf or my hamstring and it would last for a minute and I just had to sit there holding it, like my entire leg stretched out. The pins and needles happened every time I was sitting down. My legs would fall asleep, my hands would fall asleep if I had my arm resting on a cushion. That was enough to cut off the circulation. So my circulation was really bad. And if I was sitting cross-legged, my legs wouldn't sleep in less than a minute. I hated sitting cross-legged. I would like prop myself up and people were like, what are you doing? You have to fart? Like, what's going on? The frequent ear and sinus infections, the white coat on my tongue, and the musky body odor probably meant that I developed a systemic overgrowth of candida or some other pathogen. And that's very common with Lyme disease, to have a co-infection like candida. When I was 26, many of my old symptoms were getting worse, while a new insidious group of symptoms emerged. SIBO, mindless binge eating, eye floaters, parotid insufflation, where my salivary glands right here would swell up with air if I blew out like this. I'd have to deflate them like little balloons. Also, tooth decay, extreme eye pressure, a weak urinary stream. Like I couldn't pee hard enough. It just came out so slow. I would also pee 3 to 4 times a night, waking up and never getting a deep sleep. Bone ache. These achy, breaky bones that made me feel ancient. My heart hurt. My heart literally hurt. Like someone was pulling a string through it really quickly, like a pluck. Like a doctor was pulling out your stitches with one methodical rip rather than threading it out. One of my ears dropped like permanent palsy. Like if you see my glasses when they're gone, they don't sit right. This would be if both of them touched right there. This is how my glasses should be. My ear dropped. My glasses used to fit. When I was talking to someone, sometimes I couldn't remember the word I wanted, and I developed this weird type of stutter where it wasn't stuttering so much as pausing. Like my mind was glitching. Like the word was right there on the tip of my tongue, but there was a hook with a line pulling it back down. Like I couldn't get it out. Like a lag in a video game. Sometimes when I stood up too quickly, I would have this weird sort of seizure where I would jerk and fall to my knees. Like it wasn't like a typical, I've seen epileptic seizures, but this was like I don't know, it was strange. Until I was 27, I worked out and ran a lot. And that's because exercise was the only thing that really treated my depression and anxiety. But around the age of 27, I must have burned out because I couldn't recover anymore. If I did a single squat, I was out for a week. Imagine you haven't worked out for 2 months, 5 months, whatever, and then one day you do a massive workout. That next day, how sore you are, how that soreness has a sharpness to it, like a creaky plastic sharpness to it. That's how it always felt after even a single squat, after a single mile of running. My whole body felt like that all the time. It got to the point where I didn't want to leave my apartment anymore because I hated the idea of climbing the stairs. Like the stairs were an insurmountable odd against me. Like I didn't own my body anymore. My body owned me. Like owned. Like owned. Like I got owned by my body. That's how it felt. This group of symptoms really freaked me out because it goes to the root of human fears. Like one day I was brushing my teeth and then I looked in the mirror and I saw my teeth were decaying on the outside. I saw the roots and what looked like scabs caving in. Like something was eating my teeth. That's the stuff of nightmares. Don't mess with the teeth. That was game over for me. I was like, okay, something is wrong here. I have to move. I also had a few thick white hairs growing on my chin, like if I grew out my beard, like these white hairs, I had like 3 or 4 of them, like spread out. And that was clearly showing that my body was stressed and prematurely aging. Confirmed how old I felt. Then one day, when I was 28, a little over a year ago, it felt like my stomach jumped into my esophagus. Like my stomach was right in my xiphoid process, right there, that little knot. And I had pain radiating all around my liver and gallbladder. And it turned out that my heart rate had dropped to 25 beats per minute. 25 beats per minute. And I had this splitting headache that gave me a new appreciation for the cliche to split your head in two. It was cliches, you know, when you're sick and when you're living them, they're the most real thing you can experience. Like, oh my God, splitting my head in two, I get it. But by this time, I had so detached from my body that I didn't worry. I was like, intellectually, I felt like I was dying. Like, this is the end. Like, finally, whatever it is that I have, it came for me, and I'm gonna go. And so, chill. Like, I was like, nothing was wrong in the world. I walked a mile to Weill Cornell, the Presbyterian Hospital in Lower Manhattan. I walked there, checked myself into the emergency room, and said, I have a heart rate of 25. They didn't let me leave for 4 days. They did every test you can imagine. I will show you every test they did on me, and I've never seen doctors who were so confused, ever. These doctors were flummoxed. I had pure consciousness. I was articulate. I could explain things. I told them what was happening, and I did these heart tests, and they said they literally, they said they had never seen such a strong heart. So whatever was happening was obviously electrical. It wasn't my heart that was bad. Something else was going on, but they didn't get it. They didn't get it. This is like the first time doctors had seen that I had symptoms that I wasn't making up, and they could not make sense of it. I was secretly very happy. I was like, hell yeah. Now you see I'm not making this up, doctors. I'm not making it up. I can't consciously lower my heart rate. I'm not a yogi. Like one of the nurses looked at me before when I was checking out because my heart rate had raised to 40, and I was like, I am getting out of here. Like, I can't spend another day in the hospital. You guys don't know what's going on. I'm going to figure it out. So one of the nurses looked to me and said, I have never seen someone who looked so ill but seemed so healthy. It's the paradox of Lyme. I don't understand it either. I don't know. So, after this episode, I finally realized that the traditional doctors could not help me. So after this, I sought out a functional medicine doctor, and that's a story you can hear in my last video, My Life in the Limelight. If you have or know someone who has Lyme or might have Lyme, please share this video and share it with their friends and family, because they need to know what it's like. They need to understand. They need to know that this disease is not just in that person's head. It's true and it's real. And we need help. We need to heal. In the next video in this series, I'll share with you my blood work and all the random tests I took over the years. Thank you for watching. Subscribe because you will help build this channel, and that will help spread the word on Lyme disease, on what we need to do to truly heal ourselves. And don't forget to play. Make yourself play. Live wise and profit. Just find a way, even if it doesn't feel natural at first. Like, play for me in the first When I first started playing around, like being playful with myself again, trying to feel young, it didn't feel natural. But work through it. Nothing feels real with Lyme. Just play. Just bring that lightheartedness back into yourself. So thank you again. Live wild and profit, even if you can't sing. Yeah, play on.